Question 11. I call on the Honourable Member for Arbory, Castletown and Malew, Mr Moorhouse.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister of Education, Sport and Culture what advice his department gives serving teachers about posting on social media.
Call on the Minister for Education, Sport and Culture to reply.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. All teachers, as Isle of Man government employees, need to adhere to the cross-governmental policy and guidelines regarding the use of social media. The documents include the Electronic Communications and Social Media Policy Standards and Guidelines and guidelines for the use of electronic communications and social media, issued in September 2015. Users of social media are expected to take a reasonable and common sense approach to their use of these forms of media in respect of both how they use them as well as how often they use them. In addition, in the teacher's terms and conditions, a teacher may be summarily dismissed without notice or payment in lieu of notice by the governing body in cases constituting gross misconduct. Examples of actions which would normally be regarded as gross misconduct would include conduct by word or deed detrimental to the public service, the use of social networking sites negatively impacting on their role as a teacher, and the misuse of the department's name or bringing the department or school into disrepute. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Mr Moorhouse.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for that detailed answer. If a public post is placed which is questioned by the wider community, what action would the department take, assuming senior staff at the school and the governors are happy with the situation?
Minister to reply.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I think one of the key priorities here is the ability for individuals to have the freedom of expression while also being sensible in terms of the authority that they have through the role that they take part in. If I could refer to one of the documents that I referenced and did circulate to all members in terms of the guidelines for the use of electronic communications and social media, which is a relatively small one, it starts off that social media has been blurring the lines between professional and personal lives for a long time. And I think as political members, we've seen that. I completely respect the rights of teachers in their own name to express their opinions on social media. We also have to recognise that there has been online abuse directed at teachers by people, sometimes anonymously, that negatively impacts their mental health. And one of the issues around that is the way that harassment can follow teachers, not only when they're in their classroom, but to their homes. I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for bringing this topic to the attention of the House, and I'm looking forward to the committee that he chairs in terms of the Education Bill, which has specific clauses to protect staff of online abuse, which is supported by several unions, including the NUSUWT. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I think it's appropriate to remind all honourable members in this House and the other place that we too are accountable to these two policies. They apply to all of us in here. But the question I'd like to ask the Minister, he said that there's blurring of the lines, the authorities and the role, but there were some quite, in your answer you were quite... I felt a little bit threatening if somebody did step over the line with a word or deed that was detrimental to government. Can the Minister advise what he is doing as a department prior to the Education Bill, where he's just advised clauses will be included with regards to social media? What is he doing in the interim period to ensure that our teachers do have freedom of speech and there'll be no repercussions?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. All I can say is what I've reiterated, that where teachers post on social media, if it's within the boundaries of their doing that publicly, as an individual, I would respect their right to do so. If they post on social media as a member or representative of a trade union, they have the right to do so. If they post on social media as a representative of their school and as a head teacher, then there are guidelines produced by the Isle of Man government to look at that activity. And again, one of the other clauses in terms of advice to help you stay professional online says, Don't lose your personality online. Just remember that you don't just represent yourself, your behaviour reflects the Isle of Man government. That applies to us in this House, that applies to the people working for the Isle of Man government in the very important role that they do, because our teachers and our school environments are incredibly important to our community. Thank you.